The last great battle had ended. The sky above the ruined alien fortress was filled with broken ships, smoke, and silent wreckage. 1,000 lights flickered in the distance like weak stars. The war between humans and the invader race had lasted for many years, but on this day, the last enemy stronghold had fallen. The world was quiet, but the quiet was not peaceful. It was the quiet after a storm. Rian walked through the battlefield with slow steps. His armor was scratched and burned. His hands were steady, but inside his chest, his heart still beat fast from the fight. Around him, the ground was black from fire. The air smelled of iron and burned metal. Human soldiers were gathering their wounded and helping each other back to the landing ships. Rian had not been born a soldier. He had once been a farmer on a distant colony world. But when the war came, he had joined the defense forces. He had fought through countless battles, leading his team where others gave up. He was not the loudest or the strongest, but he never turned away when things became hard. Because of this, many trusted him. A group of soldiers came running toward him. One of them, a young pilot named Jiro, saluted him with a grin. "Commander Rian, the fortress is fully secured. No more hostiles left." "You did it." Rian looked at the broken fortress in the distance. Towers had fallen, and the enemy banners were lying on the ground. He nodded. "We all did it. No one stands alone in this fight," Jiro laughed. "Still, the Council will put your name in every news feed. You are the face of this victory." Rian shook his head. He did not fight for his name to be remembered. He fought because if no one stood up, humanity would be crushed. A transport ship descended nearby. Its engines blew dust across the field. The silver doors opened, and a group of council guards stepped out. They wore clean uniforms without a scratch. The sight of them on a field full of wounded soldiers made Rian uneasy. They walked straight to him, ignoring the others. One of the guards, tall and serious, spoke in a firm tone. "Commander Rian, the Council of Worlds requests your presence at the Central Hall. You are to come immediately." "Transport is ready," Rian frowned. "Now, the wounded need help." Your team will be cared for," the guard said. "The Council demands your presence." Rian knew there was no way to refuse. The Council liked to act fast when there was a chance to celebrate victory. He gave a quick order to his second-in-command to handle the situation and followed the guards onto the ship. The transport lifted into the sky, leaving behind the battlefield. Through the window, Rian saw the dark surface below becoming smaller. He also saw the line of ships waiting to take soldiers home. Some would return with pride, some with pain. He felt the weight of every face he had seen on that field. The central hall of the Allied Council was far away. Built on a great space station above the world of Hallen, the station was the heart of the Alliance. It was clean, bright, and filled with tall banners. Here there were no broken ships, no burned ground, no cries of the wounded. Here everything looked perfect, but Rian always felt it was too clean to be real as he walked through the golden corridors. Many people turned to look at him. Some clapped softly, some whispered. They saw a hero. He only felt tired. The grand chamber doors opened. Inside was a wide circular room filled with rows of leaders and envoys from different worlds. At the center was a raised platform. Council head Marek, an older man with sharp eyes, stood there with a proud smile. "Commander Rian," Marek said, raising his voice for all to hear. "Today the Alliance stands because of brave men and women like you. Your leadership in the final battle brought an end to a war that threatened every world. We are proud to call you the hero of the war." Rian wanted to speak, but stayed silent. He was not comfortable in this kind of place, Marek continued. "In honor of your courage, the Council has chosen to give you a reward. You may ask for anything within reason. But first, we will present two special guests to you." At his signal, two figures stepped forward. They were both alien girls from the planet Terran, a peaceful world that had suffered greatly during the invasion. Their race had soft gray skin, bright blue eyes, and thin markings on their arms that glowed faintly. They were not soldiers. They were healers and knowledge keepers. The first girl, Era, had long silver hair tied neatly behind her head. She stood tall and calm, with a quiet strength in her gaze. She was known to have helped human soldiers survive when her city was attacked. The second girl, Nima, was shorter and lively. Her eyes carried a spark of curiosity. She had spent months working in human medical camps, saving many lives. She smiled nervously when the room looked at her. Marek raised his hand again. Era and Nima represent the people of Terran. Their world was saved by your strike team. Their council has offered them as a sign of gratitude. You may choose one to stand by your side. She will become your personal companion and ally in the rebuilding of the frontier worlds. The crowd began to murmur. Many believed this was a great honor. It was a tradition in the old days of the Alliance. A hero was often given a gift to show the strength of unity between species. But Rian stood still. He had not expected this. He had fought to protect, not to own or claim. Era stepped forward first. She looked straight into Rian's eyes. Her voice was clear. I offer my knowledge, my healing skill, and my loyalty to the one who saved my people. I stand here not as property, but as a bridge between worlds. Nima followed. Her voice was softer, but filled with hope. I wish to help build a better world. I do not want to return to a life of hiding. If I am chosen, I will stand and work beside you. Rian looked at them both. He remembered seeing their faces during the war. Era had walked into a fire zone to rescue wounded. Nima had treated soldiers through long nights without sleep. They were both brave in their own way. Marek looked at Rian with expectation. Commander, choose. The Alliance waits for your decision. Every eye in the room was fixed on him. He could feel the weight of their gaze. Some thought it was a simple choice. But for Rian, it was not simple at all. He had never believed in traditions that turned people into symbols or rewards. His mind was full of memories. The screams on the battlefield, the way Era had lifted wounded soldiers, the way Nima had laughed even when the world burned, trying to bring hope to those around her. He stepped forward. The crowd leaned closer. His voice was steady. I will not choose between Era and Nima. They both fought for peace in their own way. They both are more than a reward. If they agree, I will stand beside both of them. As comrades, as equals. The room fell silent. Marek's smile froze for a moment. No one had ever answered like that before. Era's eyes widened, then she slowly nodded. Nima smiled softly and looked at him with bright eyes. Marek cleared his throat. Commander Rian, this is not how the tradition works. You must choose one. Rian did not step back, then changed the tradition. This war was not won by one person. It was won by many standing together. I do not want a prize. I want allies. If the Council does not understand that, then it has learned nothing from this war. A wave of whispers rushed through the chamber. Some looked shocked. Some looked inspired. For the first time in many years, someone had stood up against an old rule in front of everyone. Marek stared at him for a long time. Then he slowly nodded. Your words carry weight, Commander. The Council will discuss this matter. For now, Era and Nima will remain under protection. You may return to your quarters. Rian turned and walked out of the chamber. Behind him, the room exploded with debate. Leaders spoke fast and loud, arguing about what had just happened. Outside the hall, the bright corridors felt less clean now. Rian walked with a straight back, feeling no shame in his decision. He had fought to protect lives, not to claim them. In a quiet corner of the station, he stopped to look through a large glass window at the stars. The war had ended, but something new had started today. His decision would echo far beyond the walls of the Council. Far behind him, Era and Nima were taken to a resting area. They did not know what would happen next, but their hearts were calm. For the first time, they felt like someone had seen them not as a symbol but as people who mattered. The debate inside the Grand Council chamber lasted for hours. Leaders spoke in sharp voices. Some supported Rian's bold choice, while others called it a break of ancient alliance customs. The Council had always offered one gift to the hero of a war, never to But Rion's words had spread quickly through the station. Soldiers, workers, and diplomats were talking about it everywhere. Rion sat alone in his assigned quarters. The room was large, but it felt empty. A soft light shone from the walls. The only sound was the quiet hum of the station's life support system. Rion sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing part of his uniform. His gloves rested on the table, stained from the battlefield. He had been in many fights, but today felt different. He remembered the look on Era's face when she heard his decision. She had been calm, but her eyes had carried something deeper, something strong. Nima's face had held a small smile. The kind of smile that comes from surprise and hope at the same time. Rion had never cared about rewards. He had seen too many soldiers die for someone else's glory. But what he did today was more than just speaking his mind. He had challenged the system that had been in place for generations. A soft sound came from the door. The security light turned green. Rion stood up as the door opened slowly. Era entered first, followed by Nima. They both wore clean clothes given by the station staff. Their eyes were clear and bright. 2 station guards stood outside, and then stepped back as the door closed behind them. Era looked around the room with a calm expression. "This place is quiet," she said softly. Nima smiled as she stepped closer to the table. "It smells clean here." "It is very different from the camps." Rion gave them a small nod. "I did not expect to see you here." Nima tilted her head. "The council sent us. They said we should stay near you while they talk about your choice," Era added. "They are still arguing. Many leaders do not agree with your decision." Rion crossed his arms. "I expected that. Old rules are hard to break, but I do not regret it." Era studied his face. "Why did you choose both of us?" Rion looked at the window where the stars glimmered like silver dots. "Because you are both more than a gift. You both stood strong during the war. Era, you saved my soldiers when you could have run. Nima, you healed people when there was nothing left. Choosing one would mean pretending the other did not matter. I will not do that." Era's eyes softened, and Nima's smile grew wider. "You are strange, human commander," Nima said. "But I like strange. Strange can change things." Rion almost smiled at that. Before they could speak further, the communication panel on the wall lit up. A mechanical voice announced, "Commander Rion, you are requested in the council hall immediately." Rion turned to the 2 girls. "I have to go. Stay here. The guards will protect you." Era stepped forward. "We should come with you. What happens there will also decide our future." Rion hesitated. Bringing them to the council could cause more tension. But Era was right. Their voices mattered too. He nodded. "Then stay close to me." The 3 of them walked through the bright corridor toward the council chamber. Many people stopped to stare. Some whispered. Some looked with respect. Others with disapproval. Rion could feel the weight of every gaze, but he did not look away. Era and Nima walked beside him with steady steps. Inside the grand chamber, the debate had reached its peak. Council head Marek stood at the center, raising his hand to quiet the noise. His sharp eyes landed on Rion as the doors opened. "Commander," Marek said, "you have caused quite a storm with your decision. The council has discussed your request to accept both Era and Nima. This has never happened before in our history." Rion stepped forward with a firm voice. "Then this can be the first time." A wave of murmurs ran through the chamber. One of the alien delegates, a tall figure with blue markings, spoke loudly. "This tradition is meant to honor one hero and one ally. If we break this, we risk destroying our order." Another delegate, a human woman with a sharp tone, responded, "But the war has already changed our order. Perhaps it is time to rebuild it with new strength." Era raised her hand to speak. The chamber fell quiet. She stepped forward with grace and calm. "I am not here as a trophy. My people have suffered. Many of us lost our homes. But we also stood with humans when the darkness came. If the commander sees me as an equal, then I accept this path." Then Nima stepped beside her. "I am not afraid of change. If standing together can build a better future, then I will stand with them." The chamber was silent for a long moment. Marek looked at Rian, then at the two girls. "You speak boldly, Commander," Marek said, "and you speak with heart. Many will resist, but some will follow. This choice is no longer only about a reward. It is about what kind of alliance we want to build after this war." One of the oldest council members rose from his seat. His voice was slow, but strong. "Tradition should guide us, not chain us. If the commander believes unity can be shown in a new way, then let it be so." The tension in the chamber shifted. Some nodded in agreement. Some still looked unsure. Marek finally raised his hand. "Then we will honor this request. Ira and Nima will both stand as companions and ambassadors beside Commander Rian. This decision marks a new chapter in the alliance." The announcement spread through the station within minutes. Screens lit up in every corner. Workers and soldiers stopped what they were doing to listen. Some cheered, some whispered. A new path was opening. Back in the quiet corridor, Rian, Era, and Nima walked together. Nima laughed softly. "You really did it. You changed the rule." Rian shook his head. "I only spoke what was right. The people chose to listen." Era placed a hand on the glass wall and looked out at the stars. "This is bigger than us. Many worlds will be watching now. Not everyone will like this." Rian knew she was right. Breaking old rules always came with enemies, but he also knew that fear could not build a better future. Later that night, the three were invited to a formal gathering in the Grand Hall. Leaders, soldiers, and diplomats attended. Banners of the Alliance hung from the ceiling. A soft tune played in the background. Marek stood on a platform and raised a glass. "Tonight we celebrate the end of a long war, and we welcome a new way forward." Commander Rian's decision reminds us that unity is not built by following old rules blindly. It is built by standing together. Applause filled the hall. Era and Nima stood beside Rian, wearing ceremonial clothing given to them by the council. Their presence was a clear sign that things had changed. After the speeches, Rian walked to a quiet balcony overlooking the station lights. The noise of the crowd faded behind him. Era joined him first, standing tall with her hands behind her back. "You do not like these events," she said calmly. "No," Rian replied. "They feel too clean compared to what happened out there. Speak like a soldier who has seen too much." "I have," he answered simply. Nima joined them, carrying 3 cups of warm drink. She handed one to each of them and leaned against the railing. "The stars look pretty from here. It feels peaceful for once." Rian looked out at the stars with them. "Peace is fragile, but it is worth protecting." Era nodded. "Tomorrow, the real work begins. Being beside you will not be easy. Many will question us. Some will attack us with words or worse." Rian met her eyes. "I do not expect an easy path, but I will not let anyone push you aside." Nima smiled. "Then we will push back together." For the first time since the war ended, Rian felt something other than exhaustion. He felt a quiet strength around him. These two were not symbols. They were fighters in their own way. Days passed quickly on the station. Rian began to attend meetings about rebuilding the frontier. Era joined medical teams to help wounded soldiers recover. Nima started learning human engineering so she could help repair damaged colonies. Wherever they went, people watched them. Some watched with hope, some with doubt. Rumors grew. Some said the commander had broken an old bond. Others said he had saved the future of the Alliance. But Rian did not let the noise control his actions. He trained with his team, met with engineers, and worked with Era and Nima side by side. One night, as the three walked back from a long day, they saw a group of soldiers standing near the hall. Their uniforms were from a sector known for resisting change. One of them stepped forward. His voice carried a hard edge. "You think you can change everything, Commander? You think bringing 2 aliens here will make us forget what happened in the war?" Rian stood still. "This is not about forgetting. It is about making sure war like that never happens again." The soldier clenched his jaw but did not step closer. Era's gaze was calm but sharp. Nima tilted her head slightly, watching closely. Rian continued, "If you want to live in the past, You can. But I will walk toward the future with them. The group slowly stepped aside. Their eyes held anger, but also doubt. They knew Rian was respected by many. When they reached their quarters, Nima exhaled slowly. That was tense. Rian nodded. This is only the beginning. Rhea crossed her arms. Change always comes with resistance. We must be ready. Rian looked at them both. I did not choose both of you for the sake of a rule. I chose you because the future will need people who can stand strong. And I trust you both to do that. Yara gave a short nod. Nima smiled again. In that moment, their bond grew stronger. Not as commander and followers, but as three. The days after the council's decision felt very different on the station. News of Rian's choice had spread far beyond the metal walls and corridors. It had reached distant colonies, trade ships, and military outposts. Some called him brave, others called him reckless, but no one ignored what had happened. Rian had forced the Alliance to look at old traditions with new eyes. Inside the station, life moved forward, but the air carried a new kind of tension. Every meeting, every hallway conversation, and every security briefing seemed to hold an invisible weight. Rian could feel it as he walked with Era and Nima through the bright corridors. The lights were the same, the polished floors were the same, but the way people looked at them was not. Era noticed it too. Her steps were calm, but her eyes were sharp, watching every face. Nima, more open and friendly, tried to smile at the people they passed. Some smiled back. Some looked away. A few whispered behind their hands. They reached the command deck where officers and soldiers worked around glowing screens. A large hologram of the outer colonies floated above the central table. Red marks showed damaged areas still recovering from the war. Commander Rail, a tall man with gray hair, walked toward Rian. He had served longer than anyone else on the station. His voice was steady and direct. Rian, the Council assigned you to lead the Frontier Rebuild Program. You will work with teams across different sectors. Era and Nima have been added to your unit as special representatives. The eyes of the Alliance are on you now. Rian nodded. I understand. Where do we start? Rail tapped a few commands on the table. Sector 12. It was one of the hardest hit during the war. The people there do not trust the Alliance anymore. Supplies are short, and patrols have reported pirate activity. You need to show them this new alliance is real. Nima leaned forward to look at the map. I know this sector. Some of my people used to live near here before the invasion. Many families never came back. Era crossed her arms. Rebuilding will not be easy. Trust is hard to win after so much loss. Rian placed both hands on the table. Then we start by listening. We will not act like rulers. We will act like allies. Rail studied him for a moment and then gave a short nod. Then prepare your team. You leave in the morning. When they stepped out of the command deck, Nima's energy returned. She walked quickly, excitement clear on her face. We get to leave the station. I am tired of staring at metal walls. I want to see the stars again. Era gave her a small look. Do not forget this is not a simple trip. Many will judge us out there. If this mission fails, the Council will say the commander's decision was a mistake. Rian walked between them. Then we will not fail. That night, Rian could not sleep easily. The soft hum of the station filled the room, but his mind was full of thoughts. He had fought many battles, but this was different. This was not about fighting enemies with weapons. This was about changing minds. Winning trust was harder than winning wars. Early in the morning, the three of them boarded a small starship with a crew of 20. The ship was not large or fancy, but it was fast and reliable. As the engines came to life, Rian felt the weight of the station fade. Era sat near the main console, reading data on the sector. Nima pressed her face against the window like a child seeing stars for the first time in months. The black sea of space stretched in every direction. Far away, distant suns glimmered. The war had left many scars out there. Empty stations, broken colonies, and quiet graveyards of ships floated in the dark. After hours of travel, the ship entered Sector 12. A massive colony world named Varen lay ahead. Once it had been a place of trade and music. Now its surface showed burned lines and empty cities. The war had reached deep here. The ship landed on the edge of the largest surviving settlement. Rusted towers leaned like tired giants. People moved through the streets with guarded eyes. The air smelled of old smoke and dry metal. Rian walked down the ramp first, with Era and Nima close behind. Soldiers followed to secure the perimeter. A group of local leaders approached. Their clothes were worn, and their faces carried both pride and caution. An older woman named Lyra stepped forward. She had been a resistance leader during the war. "You are the Alliance commander," she said in a clear but cold voice. "The Council sends promises, but we have heard promises before." "They did not save us then." Rian met her eyes without flinching. "I am not here to make promises. I am here to work with you. I fought in this war too. I saw what it did to places like this. I want to rebuild with your people, not over them." Era stepped forward. Her calm presence drew attention. "I am not human. My world suffered like yours. I know pain like this. We stand here because we believe this alliance can be more than words," Nima added. "We want to help, not to rule." The people in the crowd whispered. Some looked unsure, but some seemed to soften. Lyra studied their faces for a long time before she spoke again. "Words are wind, but action is stone. If you are serious, then help us fix the water line first. It has been broken for months. The Council sent no one." Rian nodded. "Then that is where we begin." The next day was long and full of hard work. Rian worked with local engineers to repair the old pipes running beneath the settlement. He lifted heavy equipment with his own hands, not just commands. Era used her medical training to treat workers who had been injured. Nima crawled through tunnels to fix broken connections. Her small frame perfect for tight spaces. The people watched closely. Many had expected the commander to stand aside and give orders, but Rian worked beside them like one of their own. Era and Nima spoke to children, shared food with the elders, and listened to stories of what had been lost. By the end of the day, clean water flowed through the pipes for the first time in months. The sound of rushing water brought cheers and tears. People filled containers, laughed, and hugged each other. Lyra walked to Rian. Her face, once hard, now showed a small but real smile. "You are not like the other councilmen. Maybe this alliance is not just talk after all." Rian shook her hand firmly. "We will not stop here. There is more to rebuild." As the sun set over the ruined city, fires were lit for warmth. Soldiers and settlers sat together around the flames. Nima laughed as she tried a strange local drink that burned her throat. Era listened to a group of elders singing old songs. Rian sat quietly, watching the people come alive again. But far away, not everyone was happy with what they saw. A small group of men watched the camp from the shadows of a broken tower. They were not soldiers. They were part of a faction that rejected the council completely. They believed the alliance brought only control and lies. Their leader, a scarred man named Brock, lowered his binoculars. His voice was cold. "The hero commander thinks he can make people forget with clean water and pretty speeches. We will remind them who the real enemy is." Min nodded. They carried old weapons left from the war. 2 days later, while Rian's team worked on rebuilding power lines, a sudden alarm rang out. Explosions shook the north side of the settlement. Thick black smoke rose into the sky. Soldiers rushed to the walls. People screamed. Rian grabbed his rifle and ran toward the smoke. Era followed with medical gear. Nima ran to the command station to get power shields online. Brock and his men had attacked a supply station. They shouted that the council was lying, that the commander was a tool of control. They fired their weapons at the power generators. Trying to make the people believe the alliance could not protect them, Rian reached the site fast. He took cover behind a wall as bullets and plasma fire lit the night. He shouted to the local guards to hold their line. Era crouched behind a cargo container, treating a wounded soldier. Nima's voice came through the cum. "Shields are rising. Give me 20 seconds." Rian leaned out and fired carefully, not to kill, but to force the attackers back. He shouted to the people near the fire line. "Stay back. Do not let fear take over. We will protect this place. The attackers tried to push closer, but the power shields activated with a bright flash. A blue barrier rose between the settlement and the attackers. Their shots bounced off harmlessly. Rian led a small team through a side path, circling behind Brock's group. They moved fast and silent. Within minutes, they surrounded the attackers. Brock turned, surprised. Rian aimed his rifle, but did not fire. His voice was firm. This is not a war zone anymore. Put down your weapons. Brock spat on the ground. You think people here want your alliance? They want to be free. Rian's tone stayed steady. Freedom does not come from burning the world again. It comes from building something better. If you really care about this place, stop destroying it. For a moment, silence hung heavy. Some of Brock's men lowered their weapons slowly. They had seen their people smiling for the first time in years. Brock saw it too. Anger flashed in his eyes. He raised his weapon, but Rian moved faster. In one swift motion, he disarmed him and pinned him to the ground without firing a shot. Soldiers rushed in to secure the area. The attack was over. No lives were lost. The settlement still stood. Later, when calm returned, Lyra spoke to the gathered crowd. You saw it with your own eyes. This man did not bring war. He brought strength. People cheered. Some cried. Trust began to grow like a small flame in cold air. As the night deepened, Rian sat on the edge of the camp with Era and Nima beside him. The sky above Varen was dark, but full of stars. Nima leaned back against a crate. The galaxy was not at peace. Even though the Great War had ended, silence after war was never simple. Some leaders saw the new alliance between humans and the alien world of Era and Nima as a bright future. Others saw it as a threat to their control. While the celebrations continued in many places, shadows started to gather in secret corners of the stars. Rian spent most of his time at the new council station. The station floated above a bright blue world and had strong defense towers around its orbit. The council was made of leaders from many worlds. They wanted to build a future where humans and alien races could work together without fear. Era and Nima stood beside Rian during every meeting. They spoke with calm voices and showed trust in humanity. They believed the alliance could bring light to every dark corner of the galaxy. But not everyone shared this hope. In the far regions, a group of powerful warlords grew restless. They had built their power through fighting and fear. If peace came, their power would fall. They sent spies into the council station to learn how strong the new alliance was. Their leader, a tall and silent man named Gorn, gave a clear order to his followers. He said that if the alliance grows strong, they must break it before it spreads. Rian noticed the growing tension. He often walked through the long glass halls of the station, watching the stars outside. He remembered the war and how many lives had been lost. He did not want another conflict, but he also knew that peace could not survive without strength. Era and Nima often joined him during those silent walks. Era believed in diplomacy and peaceful talks. Nima, who had grown up in a war-torn world, understood that danger never disappeared completely. One night, Rian received a message from Captain Sorn, one of his old allies. The message warned that unknown ships had been seen near the edge of the system. They carried no clear signs of any known world. Their movement was strange, slow but steady. The council ordered the defense fleet to stay alert. Rian felt a heavy weight in his chest. He knew this was only the beginning. The next day, a council meeting was held. Leaders from many worlds filled the large round hall. The air was thick with nervous energy. Some wanted to send a large fleet immediately. Others wanted to open talks. Rian stood and spoke in a firm voice. He said that unity must be shown, but wisdom must guide their actions. Era added that not all unknown ships meant war. Nima disagreed and reminded them that enemies often came without warning. The debate went on for hours. In the end, they decided to send a small group of scouts and prepare the fleet quietly. While the council worked, the warlords made their move. Gorn gathered his followers in a hidden base on a dark moon. They had built fast and powerful attack ships. They planned to strike the council station before the alliance became too strong. They believed that if they broke the symbol of unity, fear would return, and the galaxy would stay divided. 2 days later, Rian stood in the control room of the station. His eyes followed the radar screen. The unknown ships were now much closer. The scouts had not returned. A warning signal echoed through the hall. In that moment, everyone knew the truth. The enemy was not coming to talk. They were coming to destroy. Era rushed to the communication panel. Her voice was calm, but strong as she sent alerts to every part of the station. Nima joined the defense crew and began giving orders to soldiers. Rian took command of the fleet. Ships began to rise from the hangars. The defense towers charged their energy weapons. The peaceful station transformed into a fortress. The enemy appeared on the outer edge of the system. Their ships were black and fast. They moved in perfect formation, like a blade cutting through the void. Gorn stood on the lead ship. He believed the council would be weak and slow. He planned to strike hard and end it quickly, but he had underestimated Rian and his team. The human fleet moved with discipline. Era opened communication channels, offering a last chance for talks. Gorn ignored her message. He gave the order to fire. Bright beams of energy crossed the stars. The first wave hit the outer shields. The station shook, but it did not break. Rian gave the order to return fire. Human and allied ships answered with powerful bursts. Nima coordinated the defense lines with quick precision. She had learned to read the enemy's movement like a map. Era, though trained for peace, stayed calm under fire and kept the communication channels open. She believed that showing strength and offering peace at the same time would make their cause stronger. The battle grew intense. Explosions lit the darkness of space. Many ships were damaged on both sides. Rian focused on the lead ship. He knew that if Gorn was taken down, the rest would fall apart. He led a group of fast fighters straight into the enemy line. The path was dangerous, but he trusted his crew. Nima guided the fighters from the station. She spoke clearly through the radio, warning Rian of every enemy move. Era worked on breaking the enemy communication signal. If she could block their orders, their attack would become weak. Her hands moved fast on the glowing control panel. The enemy began to lose coordination. Their ships turned slower and their aim grew weaker. Rian reached the lead ship. He saw the black metal of its surface shining in the fire of the battle. He ordered his pilots to surround it. The fighters launched a series of well-timed strikes. The shield of the lead ship cracked. Gorn tried to push back, but his control over the fleet was falling apart. Inside the council station, soldiers ran through the halls. Some enemy ships tried to land and attack from inside. Nima left the command center and joined the ground defense. She moved fast with the security team, blocking every attempt to breach the station. Era stayed on the main deck and worked on keeping the shield stable. Rian's voice echoed through the radio, steady and clear. He told them that the enemy was losing ground. Gorn, standing on his bridge, saw his fleet breaking. His plan had failed. He had believed that the alliance was weak. Now he saw it stand strong. He tried to escape with his ship, but Rian was faster. The lead fighters locked their weapons and forced Gorn's ship to shut down. The remaining enemy ships scattered and fled into the darkness. When the battle ended, the station was damaged, but standing. Many fighters were lost, but their courage had held the line. The council gathered once more. There were no celebrations this time. Instead, there was a deep and strong silence. They all understood something important. Peace was not just about kind words. It was also about strength, trust, and standing together when danger came. Rian walked through the damaged halls with Era and Nima. Workers moved quickly to repair the station. Rian looked at them and felt proud. Era smiled softly, her voice calm as she spoke about how unity had protected them. Nima looked at the stars outside the window and said that the enemy would return one day, but next time they would be even more ready. Later that night, the three stood on the observation deck. The stars shined quietly, as if nothing had happened. But something had changed in the hearts of everyone on the station. They had faced a real threat together and won. The alliance was no longer just an idea. It was now a living shield made of trust and shared strength. The council announced a new plan. They would build more defense stations across the galaxy. They would train together, share knowledge, and grow stronger as one. Rian was named the leader of the Joint Defense Fleet. Era and Nema became the official ambassadors between worlds. They were no longer just part of a reward. They were leaders in their own right. The shadow of warlords still remained far away. But now the galaxy knew that humans and their allies would not break easily. The Alliance had taken its first big test and had stood tall. Rian, Era, and Nema looked at the stars, ready for whatever came next. The sun rose slowly over the capital city of Venera, painting the towers in gold and red. The people stood on the streets, looking up at the sky that was once covered in dust and smoke. Now, it was clear and full of light. It was the first peaceful morning in many years. The war was over, and the planet had finally taken a deep breath of calm. Rian. Mira and Luna walked through the city gates together. Their clothes were torn and covered with dust from the silent wastes, but their eyes were full of hope. The guards saluted them as they entered, and soon a crowd began to follow. People whispered their names with respect. Everyone had heard what they had done in the desert. The story of the destroyed Sentinel had already reached the city. The great hall of the council was waiting for them. The doors opened slowly as they entered. Inside were the leaders of both races, the Human Council and the Lunary Elders. The hall was silent when Rian stepped forward. His hands were still scratched from the battle, and his voice was calm when he spoke. "We found the truth," he said. "The war was not started by hate, but by a machine that made us hate each other. It wanted control. It used fear to keep us apart, but we ended it together." The elders and humans looked at one another. No one spoke for a moment. Then Mira stepped beside Rian. Her silver eyes shone under the light of the hall. "Peace will not stay by words alone," she said softly. "It must live in our actions. We can heal this planet together if we trust each other again." Luna, who had been silent until then, held up a small device, a crystal sphere, that glowed faintly in her hand. "This came from the Sentinel's core," she explained. "It holds the energy of both human and Lunari design. It is proof that our worlds can work as one." The leaders leaned forward to look. The crystal shimmered between blue and white light. It was alive, balanced between two powers that once destroyed each other. The council was silent again. Then the human general stood up. "You chose both paths," he said to Rian. "You refused to divide what was meant to be whole. You showed us what it means to be human." The Lunari elder nodded. "And more than that," she added. "He showed us what it means to be kind." Rian looked down, uncomfortable with so much praise. "I did not do this alone," he said. "Without Myra and Luna, I would have failed. They are the reason I am standing here. I chose both because peace cannot be built by one heart." His words spread through the hall like quiet thunder. The council members began to talk among themselves. For the first time, there was no anger, no blame. Only calm voices and thoughtful faces. After a long meeting, the council made a new law. It would be called the Unity Accorda Promise, that humans and Lunari would share knowledge, land, and power equally. The first act under the new law was to appoint a joint council of 3, 1 human, 1 Lunari, and 1 bridge between them. The elders turned toward Rian, Mira, and Luna. "You 3 shall lead the beginning of the accord," said the elder. "You will guide us into this new dawn." Rian wanted to refuse, but Mira touched his arm. "You must," she said gently. "You brought us here. Now, help us stay together." He nodded quietly. "Then I will try. But we will do it together." That evening, the celebration began. The city lights burned brighter than the stars. Music from both cultures filled the air, drums and flutes, mixed with soft Lunari bells. Children ran through the streets holding ribbons of 2 colors, blue and white, tied together to show unity. Food stalls were open everywhere, and the people laughed without fear for the first time in many years. Rian stood at the edge of the festival, watching the joy around him. He felt a weight lift from his shoulders. Mira and Luna joined him, each holding a small plate of food. "You are not celebrating," Luna said with a smile. "That is not like you," Rian smiled faintly. "I do not know how to celebrate peace yet. I have lived too long in war." Mira laughed softly. "Then you will learn. peace takes practice, just like war does. They walked through the crowd together. People greeted them, shaking hands and bowing in thanks. Some Lunari children handed Myra flowers, saying she was their healer. Others asked Luna about her machines. Rian only smiled and told them to learn from both of them. He wanted the world to see that this new bond was not about choosing sides, it was about joining them. As the night deepened, they climbed a tall tower near the center of the city. From there, they could see the light stretching all the way to the horizon. The stars above shone bright, reflected in the calm rivers below. "This is what the world should have always been," Luna said softly. Mira nodded. "It can stay this way if we keep the light alive." Rian leaned on the railing, looking out at the twin moons that rose together over the hills. "The Sentinel called itself eternal," he said. "But look at the sky now. Even machines fade. Only life remains." They stayed there in silence for a while. The wind carried the sound of laughter and music from below. For the first time in a long while, Rian felt peace, not just around him, but inside him. The next morning, work began on rebuilding the world. The humans and Lunari worked side by side. New bridges and farms were built where battlefields once stood. Mira became the first Lunari healer in the Human Medical Council. Her methods of light therapy helped cure wounds that human medicine could not. She trained both races together, teaching that life was sacred, no matter the form. Luna worked with the engineers to build a new reactor powered by the energy crystal they had found. It ran on both human fusion tech and Lunari light energy. She called it the Heart of Venera. It became a symbol of their alliance and powered the city with clean, endless light. Rian traveled between cities, helping humans and Lunari rebuild trust. He refused any title of ruler or general. People called him the Bridge Between Stars, a name he accepted only because it reminded him of what they fought for. He never saw himself as a hero. He saw himself as a man who made a choice to treat both sides as equal, and to believe that unity was stronger than pride. Years passed slowly. The scars of the old war began to fade from the land. New forests grew where craters once stood. Children of both races played together, learning both languages. The old songs of battle were replaced by songs of peace. One evening, Rian visited the site where the silent wastes once stretched across the desert. Now, green plants had begun to grow in the sand. The wind was soft, carrying a smell of rain. Mira and Luna stood beside him again. "It feels like a dream," Mira said quietly. "I remember the silence here, the emptiness." Luna smiled. "Now it is full of life, just as it should be." Rian looked at them both. "You once told me that peace takes practice," he said. "I think we are finally learning." Mira nodded. "In still learning," she said, "peace is not a gift. It is work that never ends." He smiled. "Then let us keep working." They watched the twin moons rise together, their light falling on the desert that was no longer silent. In the distance, the towers of the new city glowed with soft blue and white light. It was a sight that none of them could have imagined during the days of war as they stood there. A group of children ran past, laughing and chasing small lights that floated above the sand. One of the children stopped and looked up at Rian. "Are you really the man who chose both?" the child asked innocently. Rian smiled. "Yes, I am. But not because I wanted more. Because I wanted no one left behind." The child grinned and ran back to join the others. Rian turned to look at Mira and Luna. They both smiled back at him, their eyes full of calm and pride. Luna pointed at the stars. "Do you see that one? It is brighter tonight?" Mira nodded. "It is the sign of renewal. The ancients said it shines when the world begins again." Rian looked up. "Then it belongs to us all," he said softly. They stood together until the night grew deep. No one spoke again. The stars above were countless. The wind carried the scent of new life across the sand, and under the light of two moons, a new world was born, one built not on victory or power, but on understanding. The name of Rian, Mira, and Luna became a legend told to every generation that followed. A story not of war, but of a human who looked at two paths and chose both. Not for himself, but for everyone. The people of Venera would remember that choice forever. And when the next dawn came, it rose on a world united in peace.